president canceled the Keystone pipeline on day one. He banned oil production on federal land. He reversed Trump's Alaska drilling. I remember the time when it was a national goal to be energy independent.
The State Department will rule soon on whether to green light the proposed 1,700-mile pipeline, the second engineered by the TransCanada Corporation and designed to pump 830,000 barrels of crude oil a day from Alberta to the Gulf Coast.
Your approval of the Keystone XL pipeline will almost immediately create 20,000 new American jobs here in the United States.
A decision on the $7 billion project was expected by the end of the year, but may be postponed pending review from the president.
Well, I guess the question is, why the delay? Why did the president put it off until after the election, which smells of politics? And, frankly, that's what really upsets the people of America.
Today, President Obama rejected the plan, but the battle involving jobs, the economy, and election year politics is far from over. The company, TransCanada, said it will reapply to build the pipeline.
Let me ask you about the oil in Canada. They have a lot of it, and at least one Republican candidate argued today it'll go someplace else if it doesn't go south and through the U.S. down into Mexico. Is that the case?
There are talks about it going to China.
Breaking news.
We've been waiting for more than a year for the Obama administration to make a decision on a key pipeline that's supposed to carry oil from Canada through the United States. Lots and lots of jobs at stake, but there seems to be movement towards a final decision. Dan Lothian is here getting some new information. What's the latest?
That's right, Wolf. And as you know, the State Department had been reviewing to find out whether or not this pipeline would have any kind of environmental impacts.
Today's report says it won't have an effect on the environment either way. Approval or denial of one crude oil project remains unlikely to significantly impact demand for heavy crude oil.
Well, Brooke, I think that this study basically puts this project in the pipeline to approval. Basically, what this report outlines is the environmental impact that the Keystone pipeline would have. And according to this report, and we've been going through it for the last several minutes, it essentially concludes that it would not have a significant impact on greenhouse gas emissions, would not have a significant impact on climate change. And that
Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel is live on Capitol Hill with the latest. Good evening, Mike.
Well, Brett, good evening. After years of environmental study and review, the Senate is now voting to potentially authorize the Keystone XL pipeline. To pass it and send it to President Obama, supporters need 60 votes.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington. President Obama has vetoed a bill from Congress to authorize construction of the Keystone XL pipeline. The company behind the Keystone XL pipeline is challenging President Obama's rejection of that project. TransCanada is going to court, claiming the decision was arbitrary and unjustified.
Trump administration just approving the Keystone XL pipeline project, authorizing construction to start. Now, the move reverses the Obama administration's decision to block the controversial oil pipeline. It seals a deal on one of Donald Trump's campaign promises. The project will funnel crude oil from Canada to refineries on the Gulf Coast.
I approved, immediately after we took office, the Keystone XL and Dakota Access Pipeline. Okay? 48,000 jobs.
Yeah, numbers don't lie. The fact checkers go into overdrive. They don't know what to do when they see the Dow Jones and NASDAQ averages continue to climb up. We're smashing records on unemployment, on workforce development, on deregulation. We're now net exporters of natural gas and oil in this country.
When you look at 2019, for the first time in 70 years, we're a net exporter of oil. That's just absolutely incredible. We are the largest natural gas producer in the world. A decade ago, we were third in both of those rankings. A decade ago, you were just talking about the price of oil. Oil was hitting around $140 a barrel. And now we're talking about a high of 61. So when you have domestic, abundant energy that you can produce on large quantities, that produces a reliable power source for the economy, manufacturing costs come down, agriculture costs come down, the cost of living comes down.
And gas gets cheap, Americans get happy. I mean, exactly. It's pretty simple, and yet
You have Joe Biden saying that on day one it would be his mission to get rid of all of these jobs. Yeah, Joe Biden, all of these jobs. He has said that there is no place for fossil fuels in my administration. That's a direct quote.
The stroke of a pen, President Joe Biden revoked a key permit for the Keystone pipeline extension, halting construction and putting plans for a pipeline that would eventually connect Alberta, Canada to Texas on hold.
President Biden says it's long past time for America to move forcefully toward renewable energy.
We see it with our own eyes, we feel it, we know it in our bones, and it's time to act.
But change comes at a fragile time for the economy. The fossil fuel industry supports more than 12 million jobs, supplies 80% of America's energy, and about 8% of our GDP.
This has more to do with the immediate cancellation of the Keystone pipeline, banning drilling on federal property, and just the sort of war against fossil fuels. This is what you get. You get higher oil prices and higher gas prices.
Isn't it true that pipelines are more carbon delivery efficient than trains or trucks or other forms of delivery? If you could answer just that limited question.
Is true. I think that is true.
This is material that since we had the executive order to stop our Keystone XL pipeline, this is material that is now just sitting. Call it a stranded asset. We got a control building that goes to a substation. There's $110,000 sitting there. We've got 2 transformers for the substations. They're about $750,000 a piece. There's $1.5 million in transformers. We've got some breakers sitting over there, 3 of them. They're about $55,000 a piece, so there's another $165,000. And that's just this one spot. But when President Biden's executive order came in, things shut down almost immediately. We started seeing workers leave town, leave the state, and just like that, it ground to a halt. Yeah, and we're talking years of work with just the man hours, the engineering, the land accrual, getting the easements. And there's a lot of work put in, and this is just in our little area. You know, and this is the projects from Canada all the way down to Oklahoma. So imagine everything, every small town like ours is feeling the same thing.
Look at all the pipeline that's done already. There's much of it. I mean, what's left, a little bit in South Dakota, a little bit in Montana, and she's hooked up. But the jobs, the ongoing jobs, the weekly jobs, the day-to-day jobs for these pump stations alone, you're taking away from us. You're taking food out of the mouths of our children, our grandchildren. You're taking good, high-paying jobs away from the entire, where this pipeline passes through, which is what, 11 states? You're stealing from us.
Well, before I really got any of the news, I had the pipeline workers come back in and said, okay, it's it, we're done, it's finished. And I said, he signed it, meaning he signed the executive order. And they were like, apparently, they told us to get our tools and remove ourselves from the property instantaneously, within just hours of President Biden taking over. It was just like a complete, total shock. Almost as if it were a death in the family, because it was just like, for 3 days, I didn't know what to do, where to go. It was just, what are we gonna do? They all left, you know, it was just, yeah, now what do we do?
When you see big, strong men who have worked physical, hard labor come in with their heads hanging, saying, I'm sorry, but I have to cancel my contract, I gotta go. And when you see families and kids with tears, every job matters, not just one, not just 11,000. A family's been impacted negatively, and we don't know why, you know? Like I said, there was no breach in contract. There was no broken, you know, rules. It was just that President Biden signed an executive order that said no more.
We've got a Fox Business alert. President Biden taking questions from reporters on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline running through Germany. The president said he allowed it to continue because it is nearly finished. The administration received bipartisan backlash for waiving sanctions on the Russian company building the pipeline after canceling the Keystone XL here at home.
The Keystone XL pipeline is coming to an end. The Canadian company TC Energy is terminating the $9 billion project, saying it ran out of options after President Biden revoked a key permit. The line would have carried crude oil from Canada to Nebraska.
This is really bad policy, and when we're not producing energy here in America, we're transferring wealth to nations that do not share our interests, that do not like America.
Is today you had the White House releasing the statement through the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, begging OPEC to pump more oil for gas prices when Joe Biden, the first day in office, killed Keystone Pipeline and then eliminated leasing for oil and gas leases on federal lands. People warned about that.
This as gas prices jump. For most of the weekend, the national average was at $3.18 a gallon, about 4 cents higher than a week ago and a full $1 higher than a year ago.
By the numbers, gas prices across the country are seeing a rise. According to AAA Mid-Atlantic, the national average price for a gallon of regular gasoline was $3.19, which is up 2 cents from last week. But the agency says this time last year, drivers were paying $2.18 a gallon on average.
The White House has asked oil and gas companies to lower fuel costs. So, Lauren, the president, who is a climate warrior, hates fossil fuels, now wants to increase the production of fossil fuels to get the price down. This makes no sense.
What would that conversation even sound like?
Yeah.
When you kill the Keystone XL pipeline, when you ban drilling on federal land and waters, what does that conversation look like when you call up your energy producers and you say, "Oh, can you turn back on the pumps and
help me
drill
out."
that well?" It's so awkward. And the president was asked about this yesterday by a Bloomberg reporter. Turned his back.
I don't see anything that's going to happen in the meantime that's going to significantly reduce gas prices. So but I must tell you, I don't have a near-term answer.
Oil prices jumping once again. Yesterday up about 1.1%, hitting the highest price since October 2014. This is Exxon's board of directors is debating dropping oil and gas projects.
Also right now, gas prices have increased every day for the past 27 days, and the current national average is at $3.38 a gallon, according to AAA. They said it's due to higher demand, a decline in supply, and elevated crude prices.
If you take a look at gas prices, and you take a look at oil prices, that is a consequence of, thus far, the refusal of Russia or